Today's scripture reading brings us to 2 Samuel chapter 10. The events of chapter 10 here are events that are fleshed out, that were actually summarized or at least mentioned back here a couple chapters ago. In chapter 8, throughout that chapter, it mentioned various victories and escapades over kings and nations that David had done as king of the children of Israel. And I believe it's in verse number 12 where it mentions his victory over the Ammonites. When chapter 10 here, it is fleshing that out and what happened there as not only information here, but a lead-in into what happens in the next chapter. That being said, I have this chapter broken down into 3 sections. The first 5 verses I have titled, A New King and Foolish Counsel. The Ammonite king dies, Nahash, he dies, and his son Hanun reigns in his stead. David, because Nahash showed him kindness, David sent an embassage unto Hanun there to pay his respects and essentially show him a pleasantry. Hanun, being a novice, hearkened unto foolish counsel and made a tragic mistake. He shaved off half of their beards and cut off their clothes and sent them packing. As you can imagine, this was great embarrassment not only to them. Now, if this happened in our day, we could, if a man had a beard and someone shaved off half of it, he wouldn't have to go around like that. He could shave off the rest of it and just say, hey, I was just looking for a new change of pace, and go that way. Well, that wasn't the way it was there. Israelite men were to keep their beards. It was honorable for them to have beards in that day. And so they couldn't all just shave them. Everyone would know something was up. So they were very embarrassed. When David heard of this, to save them from this embarrassment, he sent people out unto them and told them, say, hey, just hang tight there at Jericho until your beards grow back. It'd been easy for them to get a change of clothes, but hang there until your beards grow back to save them, spare them the shame of coming into the capital city. And during this time, now David is mad, and he speaks unto Joab, and he's going to avenge the children of Israel. Now, the Bible does tell us in Proverbs 1:5, a wise man will hear and will increase learning, and a man of understanding shall attain unto wise counsels. The Bible admonishes men to attain to counsel, and multitude of counselors there is safety. But we can't just take the counsel of an idiot, right? We need wise counsel. We need to hearken unto wise counsel. And this is where Hanun really failed. He hearkened unto foolish counsel. He did what Solomon's son years later would do and divide the nation. Because he hearkened unto foolish counsel here, he's bringing a whole heap of mess of trouble down upon him, and not only him. We'll get to that in a little bit. So we see verses 1 through 5 there. Verses 6 through 14, I have that titled, Joab and Abishai Fight for Israel's Honor. In these verses here, David consults with Joab, and he gets the mighty men together, and he goes out against the Ammonites. Well, the Ammonites realize that David's not fond of them right now, and so what they do, they go and hire the Syrians. If you look in 1 Chronicles, you see, I think they hired them for 1,000 pieces of silver. Don't quote me on that, but it seems like that's what I read. I didn't make note of it. But they go and hire the Syrians up north to help them. It was bad enough that you do something foolish, but you obviously see that this was not thought through because they don't have the means to back it up. They had to go try to gather help unto themselves for the trouble that was coming. So they go and hire the Syrians. Joab comes down to make war against the Ammonites, and he sees what's happening. He is encompassed on both sides. He's got the Ammonites to the south, and he's got the Syrians to the north. And so what he does is he tells his brother there, Abishai, and says, all right, Abishai, listen, you're going to go down to the Ammonites, and you're going to fight against them. And I'm going to take the Syrians. I believe that was the order of it. I'm going to take the Syrians to the north, and I'm going to fight against them. And listen, if I have trouble, you come help me. If you have trouble, I'm going to come help you. It might have been backwards. It's right there. Let's see. Yeah, the Syrians. He fought against the Syrians. That's what I thought. Joab to the north. They rout the Syrians. They start fleeing. When the Ammonites see the Syrians flee, then the Ammonites go into their city. They shut the doors and they say, hey, man, we're done here. No more fighting. And that takes us through verses 6 through 14. Now, I will say this, and that is, in verse number 12 there, Joab had a great attitude. He says, be of good courage. He's telling his brother this. Be of good courage, and let us play the men for our people and for the cities of our God. And the Lord do that which seemeth him good. And so his attitude was this. Man, do what's right. Fight for God and his people, and just trust the Lord for the outcome. Right? Joab didn't know how it was going to go. He said, but just do what is right, fight for God, fight for our people, and trust that God will do what is right. Of course, that's what they did, and God did supply them with what they needed to have the victory. And then verses 15 through 19, we see David getting in on the action here. And this will take us through the remainder of the chapter. David gets in on the action. The Syrians, they go off, and then the Israelites are pursuing, and then David comes, and he wages war against the Syrians, and he defeats them. I have verses 15 through 19 titled as this, and that is David joins and defeats the Syrians. Now, he not only defeats them, but then he subjugates them as well. They become his servants, smites them, verses 15 through 18, verse 19, he subjugates them. They become his servants from that day forward. Now, there's one lesson I want to give you, and then we'll close this out. When you hearken unto wise counsel, it'll typically cost you a lot more than you think. And what I mean by that is the Ammonites had to go and hire the Syrians. Now, the Ammonites still got whipped. And then you'll see at the beginning of the next chapter, they went, in chapter 10, they went and walled themselves in at the city, and they were safe for the moment, but it was only for the moment. It not only cost them the victory, but it cost them a whole lot of money. They sent a whole lot of money to the Syrians, and it didn't work. So they not only got whipped, but then they lost a fortune to boot. Whenever you hearken unto wise counsel, man, it'll cost you more than what you think. And so that's going to do it for 2 Samuel chapter 10 here today. I hope this has been a help to you. Lord willing, we will see you tomorrow.